بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. We welcome you all to another session of the Black Imams Roundtable. We are your hosts, the great Imam Faheem Lee, leader of the Boom Bap, Camden's finest, and I am Amin Muhammad, the infamous Imam from Atlantic City. And we are 2/3 of the Black Imams Roundtable. Today we're missing Imam Genius, but inshallah he may be in the comments section. But the three of us make up the Black Imams. And along with you, as our regular attendees, the Black Imams and crew. So together we make up the 3453 Shehu family. And it's a pleasure to join y'all. Tonight, we have an interesting discussion. But before we get to that discussion, let us have the weekly discussion that I wish one day we never have to have. And that is to show our commitment to our collective effort, which the Black Imams Roundtable represents an aspect of that effort to build, empower, and establish our communities to a level of excellence in Islam and in the worldly matters. So we do that several ways. Let's make the easy ways that are easier on the nafs. Let's plus, let's like, so everyone take a moment to hit the like button. Then, after you hit the like button again and again, right? So all those heart things go up. Then, share. Press the share button. Sharing is caring. But when you do that, make the intention to spread beneficial knowledge, because we shouldn't do anything except that we're doing it sincerely for Allah. We're seeking closeness to Allah. We're seeking the reward from Allah. We're seeking acceptance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we press that share button, we should have all those noble intentions in our mind. And don't underestimate the status of noble intentions. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى. That the actions by the intentions, and every person will get what he intended. So intend well and think well of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. As the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in the Hadith Qudsi, that Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala said, I am as my servant thinks of me, right? So if you have this good opinion of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala and this good look towards Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, that every time I do a deed, Allah is going to accept from me, mashallah, Allah will accept, Allah will reward, Allah will bring you close in status, Allah will elevate your rank, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept from you. Then the one that may be a little bit more taxing on the nafs is to make your contribution to the roundtables with the suggested contribution that we always mention that need to be mentioned because you should know it by now. And those who don't know it, double it, right? So we can keep the work going. So we can continue to spread the knowledge, and consciousness and beneficial information and encouragement. I received several messages and phone calls this week alone about how our content has changed and benefited people, young and old, or let me say young and elder. And it's a source of inspiring for many people. So let's keep it going. Let's facilitate that we can even make it better, right? And your generous contributions to the effort always helps us do that. Because when we support our efforts, we're able to reach more people. And the more people we reach, the more rewards we get from Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And everyone that shares in that gets a similar reward without the reward of any other one of us being decreased. So with all that said, let's get to the topic. Before we get to that, how is everyone feeling? Is everyone okay tonight? Are y'all all feeling well? Are y'all all in a state of al-afiyah, well-goodness, wellness, in a good state? Today's going to be an interesting conversation, inshallah. So, the importance of At Tadarruj. Before we go, do any of y'all know what At Tadarruj is? When we say At Tadarruj, what is meant by that? Does anyone know? We did that intentional, where we cut it off, just put the word, but it has a lot of meaning to it, just to have something to get your mind going. Just so anyone knows what At Tadarruj means? MashaAllah, Fatima, you act like you came up with that. I saw you. Someone else gave you that. Now, let me see. At Tadarruj, it means doing things in stages, a gradual process, right? And I think, in fact, the more we engage in a da'wah and in work in our communities with Muslims and non-Muslims, we start to realize more and more that the process of doing things in stages and steps and being patient as you develop and to observe the successes at every stage of your growth and development, or your building and your empowerment. One of the things that made me think about this, I was in my library doing some research. And I was thinking about, I've been doing this work at Masjid Muhammad for the last 18, 16, 17 years. And I remember when we started, I'm talking about Masjid Muhammad, And I look at today and I say, wow, we made a lot of progress. And sometimes when you're in it, you don't see it because you just want to reach the target. But before you get to the target, there are steps to that, right? So sometimes we have to learn to appreciate the process. And what would be even more befitting is if you can chart out the process in a strategic way and see it through till you reach your objective. So we want to talk about that in various aspects, right? In various aspects of our effort and our work. And we want, inshallah, that you engage with us on this because none of us claim that we have all the answers. Each and every one of us has a role to play in this work. And sometimes, because we don't see the stages, we don't know where we fit in. Because it may not be your time yet in the process, in the stages of our development. Your role may come later, or your role may be only a part of what is needed at a given stage. So we want to try to, inshallah, identify some of these aspects. And I'll share some personal stories about our own work and how we're noticing the importance of seeing things in stages. And so that's going to be the topic. And please feel free to join in, to make some suggestions, to add some points, put some questions, put some thoughts, challenge some ideas so that we can expand our vision of what we're trying to do. So that is my opening statement, and I'll pass the mic since Atlantic City just had a hip hop show. I know it was the other day. Did you know that? They had the old time hip hop show.
Yeah. Had I not, well, no, let me not say that.
Oh, go ahead. Let me kick you off the minhaj. You want to tell you want to go see? They had a bunch of old rappers.
I know they had
some people.
Yeah, they had KRS-One there, man. That's the.
Oh, he was there.
Yeah.
You know who was there? I saw her on the I didn't go, of course. I'm too pious. I don't do that. Right now, but you know what? So I haven't heard since I was a kid. Sweet Tea. You remember that rapper?
Yeah.
He was on the stage.
Oh wow.
Somebody, you know, they'd be filming the stuff.
Yeah.
And I saw her on the stage. I was like, wow. I think she had to go back to the early 80s or something, right?
Yeah, she was mid 80s, yeah, late 80s.
So yeah, and Stetsasonic.
Really?
That's the two I saw. Yeah, they were there. I don't know the others. There was others, but I just don't remember their names because I didn't watch it. I just saw it as you scrolling.
You just glanced at it.
You glance out a lot of stuff. So that wasn't as bad as the stuff we be glancing, you know. When you glance, there's some stuff to glance at. Nah, but so since this is hip hop, all stars hip hop, you know, what is hip hop without the boom bap? So get on the mic and give it a rock.
1 2 1 2, and I say, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وبعد. Alhamdulillah. Again, I would like to reiterate what Imam Amin mentioned, to thank you all for joining us tonight. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless you and raise your rank. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept these efforts from us and to increase us in, making them better and to continue us in good works. Amin. Alhamdulillah, we're grateful for all of you joining us tonight. MashaAllah. So first things first, let's pay that door fee, drop that bread, inshallah. Let's try to get to before the hour is out, that we can hit our goal, inshallah. Then we can just leave that where it is. And then we ain't got to keep, coming at you next about it, So alhamdulillah. So, so this topic tonight, mashallah. Also, to make sure you like and share this on your platforms, to get it, so we can get the word out, inshallah ta'ala. So alhamdulillah, so this is a very interesting topic, how, this tadarruj, or developing in stages, And of course, the first thing we should know that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentions this in the Quran, where he says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim, wa likulli darajatum mimma amilu. And for all of those, there are degrees for what they have done. There are degrees for what they have done. So the work that we do, is going to be done in stages, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward or, punish us according to what we're doing in this world, So we have to make sure that our stages, with each step we take in each level of development, that, we are precise. And so this is one of the things that we have going, inshallah ta'ala. And, it is important as we, we practice this tadarruj, and developing the stages, as Imam Amin was just mentioning about how when you're in it, you can't, it's hard to see the progress that you make, but it's very important to go back and look at the stages that you've come through, it's very important, I was part of a program last night where, it was in honor of MLK. And, so they had a viewing of The Color Purple, the new musical. And so they invited us to watch the movie, and then they had me on a Q&A session. So some people stayed behind and they asked us a few questions. And I don't want to spoil it for any of you. Well, you already seen the old movie, but in the musical, there was a part where when the movie first comes on, I'm not going to tell you the movie, but they do dates. So when the movie first comes on, it starts in 1909, and then it goes to 1917, and then it goes to 1930, and then it goes to 1945. And so one of the questions that we were asked was about, how do you, what stood out to you in the movie? And so my answer was these stages in time, where it began, what was the social construct of African Americans during that time, and looking at those dates and how we have developed as a people in stages. That's my alarm on the door. It's going to go off in a minute. Just give me a second. I know that's kind of annoying. All right, that was me. So yeah. So it shows how in the movie, how we develop in stages. And for us as, Muslims in general and Black people in America in particular, we often have to identify the stages that we've been through and what we've overcome in those stages, And I was saying that the question that I was answering was that many people, they don't like to be reminded of the stages that we went through as a people to get where we are. And so I took them on the history, what was significant about the early 1900s, what happened before the 1900s, Plessy versus Ferguson in 1896, where they declared that, people, they were separate but equal, but it was really separate but unequal, after the emancipation or freedom of Black people in this country, they had all of this, these sharecropping things where they had people working and had free people trying to re-enslave them, by these harsh working conditions. In 1915, the first movie that came out was a racist, not the first movie, but it was one of the earliest movies. It was called Birth of a Nation. You all remember that, Birth of a Nation, where they were showing the Klan and they were showing black people and buffoonery, and I think it was a silent movie. But so all of those stages, and then as we talk about Dr. Martin Luther King, all of the stages that we've overcome and what we've developed, and now here we have one of the leaders for our people in this country is gunned down. After he has showed remarkable resilience in peace marching and sit-ins and demonstrations and appealing to America, to all of us to come together, and they gunned him down. So, and now we're at a stage now that all of those people that he was telling about the dream is still living a nightmare, even in 2024, and so that's for our people in general. But as Muslims, we have to look at the stages we have come across Islamically. From the time we hit these shores of North America, Islam has been presented to us in stages and different variations. And, for those of us who are old enough, we have went through certain stages and we had to go through different things to reach a certain stage now. So you have to look at all of that, and, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought us through all of that in stages and varying degrees. And, on the outcome of it, alhamdulillah, for those who are here and those who are like us, we have been blessed to really cling on to the true Sunni Islam, because in the midst of those stages, we've seen a lot of corruption, we've seen a lot of deviation, and we've seen a lot of infiltration. So in these stages, as we develop, it's very important to understand how far we've come and how far we have to go, and it's going to be in stages, And then we think about, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's hadith that's in Bukhari, when he sent Mu'adh ibn Jabal to Yemen. He said, you are going to the people of the book, giving him a notification of what's going to be happening. So he said, let the first thing you call them to is La ilaha illallah. So that's the first order of business, making sure that they declare Allah as one, and they declare the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as the final prophet and messenger. And then there's a phrase in that hadith that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam kept repeating to Mu'adh ibn Jabal. He said, فَإِنْهُمْ تَعُوا لَكَ بِذَلِكَ. فَإِنْهُمْ تَعُوا لَكَ بِذَلِكَ. And if they obey you in that, and so it's conditional. If they obey you in that, they take the shahada, then let them know the next thing is for them is they have to know that they have to pray 5 prayers in the day and the night. And then if they obey you in that, then let them know that they have to pay sadaqah, and so forth and so on, or zakat. And so this deen, when we teach it, it has to be in stages. So, there's a wisdom of why the pillars are in order. And, even everything that we do has stages of development and stages of order. There's something that's called tartib. There's a purpose behind why things we do in a sequence and order, because it's part of this tadarruj. So that's important. When we're giving dawah to people and we're bringing Muslims along in Islam and we're teaching Muslims, it has to be in stages. And then, the wisdom of the Prophet Islam, he told Mu'adh ibn Jabal that these are the people of the book. So he's telling them, the kind of people you're going to be dealing with, with the stage that they're at currently. And when we're doing dawah, when we're doing this work, we have to understand the stage that we're at currently and how we're going to move along in stages of development. So this is a very important topic that we're talking about, inshallah ta'ala. And so we have that in the dunya, the stages that we come along, where we at, and then we try to gauge it and assess it of which way we need to go. And us as a people in this country, and not to necessarily exclude any other race or nationality or ethnic group, but we're talking about just our people who has went through some really dark stages, and continue to go through these stages. And then people have neglected us in our journey through these stages. And now we are trying to rebuild. And so that And going through these stages now is seemingly difficult, it's seemingly problematic. Sometimes it seems like it's confrontational, but we out here trying to develop something as a stage, as we learn and as we heal and as we, go through all of these things that we're trying to, get away from some of the influences that have been put on us, So, and taking things in stages is understand that you have to take step by step. You have to master something. You have to make sure you have something perfected before you can go to the next stage. And this is how the process of learning in Islam is. We always talking about isnad and knowledge and passing knowledge. Those are stages of development. And so we're trying to keep that tradition alive, where primarily with learning, because knowledge is the first step. In all of these stages that we develop, knowledge is going to be one of the first stages. So as we develop and grow and go through these stages, we have to, pinpoint everywhere we are, master that stage, and before we move to the next stage. So this is why many of the things that we discuss, they seem like we're going over them again. So you've heard some of the critique that we receive. Every time they turn around, they talking about Aqidah. Like that's all we talk about. Every time we turn around, they're talking about Wahhabis and all this kind of stuff. But no, that's not it. But yeah, Alcon. Yeah, mashallah. So, but it's very important because we are on the brink of another stage, and that is, coming out of some of those movements and some of those ideologies that have plagued us, the last 30 or 40 years, coming to a new stage and getting back to where we were on the old stage before, that we got distracted and we got derailed for a minute. And now, alhamdulillah, we have this voice of Ahl Sunnah, and then we have people who are like us, who are, teaching on different platforms. And, in the wake of the passing of Imam Hassan Sharif, rahimahullah, we recite Al-Fatiha for him. But in the wake of his passing, it has made it clear to us as as Black Muslims that we have to start getting together and start developing these stages of where we want to go, so we can put our people in position, as we continue to go through this journey in this dunya, that we are ready. So we start, not tadarruj is like you develop a stage and you're going upwards. You're going. You know what I'm saying? Like you forward motion, So we have to really get on this level, inshallah ta'ala, and make sure that we are mastering the stages that we at before we go to the next stage. Because we live in a time now where people are jumping all around. They're not staying focused, and this has been one of the problems in the last years, where people are jumping around, studying certain things without mastering other things. And then people are, getting confused. People are leaving Islam. People don't know how to study knowledge, how to approach knowledge, how to, and all of these things. So this is going to be an important thing as we go forth, inshallah ta'ala. So that was my introduction, and I'll pass it back. You pass me the mic and I'll pass it back.
I don't have no bars though.
Me neither.
And when we was young, everybody wanted to be a rapper. You used to be trying. You had bars when you was little. I don't know if they were that great.
No, they were horrible.
Block trying to make your bars, soak it up.
Yeah. I wanted to be a DJ, actually.
I tried that too. I tried break dancing.
Yeah.
I tried rapping. I tried it all.
Yeah. And then the crack era came.
I tried that too.
Definitely tried that.
So I wanted to bounce off something you said. Stages. And one of the first important things that I think we need to work on at this stage is two aspects. Al-ilm and al-aql. And I'll put that up. Al-ilm, knowledge. And al-aql, intellect. Right. And these are two important foundational aspects of our being that we need to develop. Having knowledge and having sound intellect of what to do with that knowledge and how it relates to the different aspects of our existence, our lives, and our endeavors. Al-ilm wal-aql. And one of the jokes I used to tell in the university, I say you always can have al-ilm, knowledge, but if you don't use your aql and you try to understand knuckle without your aql, you're going to be a knucklehead. Because sometimes just knowledge without reason will become insanity. And that has happened to us a lot. Knowledge without reason, using the intellect to reason, will become insanity. And sometimes, in the name of knowledge, you will do insane things if you don't use your reason. If the aql is destroyed, knowledge won't be so beneficial. So one of the stages that we need to develop is this level of acquiring knowledge and learning to use our intellects to properly apply that knowledge in given situations. So that goes back to that point of critical thinking, and it relates to both. Critical thinking involves both aspects of knowledge and intellect. Because in order for you to begin the process of critical thinking, you have to have something to build upon, which is the knowledge itself. That's that information. Then you use the intellect to see the benefits and harms of that knowledge and its applicability to your life, to what you need that knowledge for. So this relates to you talking about knowledge. As a teacher, not just an imam, but as a teacher, one of the things I notice with many of us, we don't know what to do with knowledge because we haven't identified the stages of obtaining knowledge or acquiring knowledge. And oftentimes, because of that, we have incomplete knowledge, which is not useful. So sometimes, and this is our journey in Islam, we don't know how to learn properly. Far too many of us. Because no one told us how to combine the aspects of knowledge and intellect. So I want to talk about stages. And I want us to document these things and start to apply them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, talking about knowledge in the Quran, said, قُلْ هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Say, now that's a command from Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Say, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, are those who know equal to those who don't know? I want us to, that's knowledge. That's a verse from the Quran. And it's telling us about knowledge. And it's telling us something about knowledge. The one who has it is not like the one who doesn't have it. But the intellect kicks in here when you're able to reason and reflect to discover what is knowledge, what is not knowledge, who has it, how much of it that they have, and who doesn't have it, and why. To really understand the value of that, all those things got to kick in. I want to read something to you quickly. I'll come back to it. Remind me, I want to read something to you about this. It really, it was powerful to me. I'll get it after I come back. So let's direct that directly to ourselves. Do we have knowledge? That's each individual asking yourself. Do I have knowledge? Number one. What type of knowledge do I have? And what benefit is that knowledge in my life? And at what stage am I in terms of being proficient in the knowledge I have? There's some serious questions to ask yourself. And that goes for all different spheres of life. But if we want to take it specifically religiously, start to ask yourself that. And then, at the status of my knowledge, my degree of knowledge, how should I act and behave with my level and degree of knowledge? What is befitting of my status in relation to knowledge for me as a person that possesses that much knowledge? And what can I do with it? It's very important to try to evaluate that in each other. Because sometimes if we start thinking like that, we'll start putting knowledge in its proper place in our lives, and it will always be beneficial knowledge, whether it was worldly or religious. That knowledge will become beneficial because now we're using our intellect to assess, to critically think what that knowledge should be used for and how to do it. There is a hadith, well, a chapter heading in Sahih al-Bukhari, which Imam al-Bukhari titled that, it is in the book of knowledge, Kitab al-Ilm. He titled it, Bab, the section, Al-Ilmu qabla al-Qawli wal-Amal. Knowledge must precede every statement and action. So which tells us the process of evaluating knowledge is essential before you speak and before you act. Imagine if we applied this principle in all of our endeavors, no matter what area we in, we take that knowledge, we use our intellects to evaluate its value, its rank, because knowledge has a value. And if you don't know its value, it can become harmful if not used properly. So you need to think about it, right? And then how does it contribute to the overall benefit of our collective activity? Right? These are some things that I think we should think about, especially when you're talking about nation building. And every individual needs to think like that so they know where they fit in the movement, in the work. Whenever somebody say, I don't know where I belong, that means they haven't examined their knowledge and haven't critically thought about the position of their knowledge and their self in the collective movement of their people. So I was talking, we had a bunch of marches this weekend. We had one because of violence. We had like 4 murders in the first couple weeks of this year already. So we did a peace march in Raleigh. And of course, the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King. So there was a march and a gathering of thoughts and discussions. And one of the things that we were talking about, because this long march, we marched through the whole city. So there's discussions with politicians, with community activists, with different types of people. And one of the discussions we were having is, where do I fit in? And what role do I play in this collective activity? And how well am I playing my role? A lot of times you need to think about that. Like, if we coming together, what's my role in this? What are we doing? And what's my part? And know your part. Know your part. And do excellent in your part. Do your part with ihsan. As the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, he said, Inna Allah kataba ala kulli shay'in ihsana. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordained that everything we do it with excellence. But that's a thought process. First, you got to know what you're doing. So that's the knowledge part. Then you have to see how to apply it correctly in a given situation. If we started thinking about that, we would find that we'd be more productive and we would not get in the way of our own progress, individually or collectively as a people. Because some people, how they say, stay in your lane and know your role. Or as the Rock say, know your role and shut your mouth. Some people don't know their role. They want to do a role that they're not capable of doing. They don't even know how to do it. They don't have the knowledge. They definitely don't have the intellect and the wisdom to do it. So they're in the way. And they become what? A roadblock to progress. Sometimes without knowing. You know what the scholars say? They said the unlearned person, al-jahil, really you can say it to make it sound really effective. The ignorant person oftentimes wants to do good, but they ruin things because of their ignorance. They want to do good, but because of their ignorance, they end up ruining things. So that aspect of the intellect and being able to evaluate and critically think your way through the things. No, miskin, jahil. Jahil is the word I'm looking. Sometimes Al-jahl, ignorance, is murakkab. It's compounded. Like the scholar says, رَجُلٌ لَا يَدْرِي وَلَا يَدْرِي أَنَّهُ لَا يَدْرِي. Meaning this person is such a person who doesn't know and he doesn't realize that he doesn't know. It means he thinks he knows. It's going to be dangerous, right? To an overall effort. And sometimes you got to go to the old sayings that we used to always say. If you're not part of the solution, don't be part of the problem. Sometimes you need to have enough knowledge and intellect just to get out the way. I'm not a benefit here. I'm harming. Let me get out the way. Right? I'm not a benefit. Let me get out the way. Right? So I think that's something we should think about. Al-ilm qabla al-qawli wal-amal. Knowledge that is examined by a sound intellect before we speak or act. And the first knowledge that we need is the knowledge of the religion, right? Knowledge of the religion. And that is in stages, and I want to talk about that. The stages of acquiring Islamic knowledge. That is an important thing. Because sometimes, because you don't know stages, things become overwhelming. And then you get frustrated. I was telling somebody the other day, I said, do me a favor. Stop trying to teach me until you learn. Then when you learn, I'll voluntarily sit at your feet to learn from you. Stop trying to teach me until you learn. And when you learn, I will voluntarily sit at your feet and learn from you. But in the meantime, while you don't know, could you please do us both a favor and listen and try to acquire some knowledge so that one day you can become a teacher? Because right now, it's not your time. Right? And that's obvious for anyone who has knowledge and intellect. It's not your time. That doesn't mean tomorrow's not your time. But right now is your time to learn. And there are stages to that. There is knowledge itself. There is the process of at ta'ammul. At ta'ammul, it is the process of actually learning. And then after that, there is the process of ta'aleem, teaching. But there is no ta'aleem, no teaching, no educating before at ta'allum, before you actually learn. It doesn't happen. It doesn't work. And it doesn't mean you have to be a scholar. You just have to know what you're talking about. But in our time, it's common. I'm not talking about to be mistaken. That's another story. I'm talking about you know you don't know. It's not like something hidden from you. You know you don't know. But you just want to jump in where it's not your turn. It's not the stage for you to jump in. You got to wait because you need some prerequisites before you jump in, right? And all of us have that. Not just all of us, but it takes sound intellect to know when that applies to you and when it doesn't, right? So in closing with this statement of mine, all of us, every single one of us here, please, can we put this up? You know, I like to put stuff up. Please remain teachable. Can we put that up? Please remain teachable. Simple. 3 words. Please remain teachable. That's very important. That is, can we all copy that? If we don't get this point as a people, we in trouble. Especially when we're dealing with one another. Because one of the things that I'm discovering, I said I was going to stop there, right? So I'll stop. Probably going to forget the next point, but please remain teachable. Let me say it so I don't forget it. Because one of the things I'm discovering, many of us are not teachable. We can't teach. We can't be taught, especially from our own. We're unteachable, especially when it comes to our own people trying to teach us. We got to fix this problem. It's a major, major problem. And that's why we kind of lag behind in many areas. We're not teachable. So remain teachable. No matter how much knowledge you got, no matter how much you acquire, please remain teachable. And if you're like that, your knowledge, your wisdom, your understanding, your maturity will blossom if you can do that. And that's in stages. So you have to remain teachable at every stage. And when I come back, I'm going to show you that Islamically. I want to show you some stuff to show us, number one, how much we don't know, how much we need to learn, and the stages to do that. And I'll pass the mic to the boom bat.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, I was just reflecting on something as you were speaking, Imam. When you say to please remain teachable, there's a concept with many of us. It seemed like that we don't want to seem like that we don't know anything, that someone made us think like we have to be aware of everything, we have to know certain things, and that really blocks us from being humble. So when you have some humility, you can remain teachable, but sometimes we feel like and this goes back to what I was saying earlier, we don't want to look at the stages that we came through or the ranks, or another word we can use is degrees that we went through, and sometimes we missed a lot in those stages of development, especially Islamically, and we think that we've learned something, and we think because we've been we're older and that we can't go back to the basics, and some of us really is out of it could be out of guilt, it can be out of shame, or even embarrassment. But don't let those things hinder you from remaining teachable, because a lot of times in my journey, I talk to a lot of people, and then they have all of these things to say, all of these concepts, all of these phrases, they know this, that, and the other. And then, until you hear somebody do something as basic as, call the Iqama for the Salat, and it sounds like something else, and these little things are important. So they missed a few stages and they bypass some stages. And then now they reach the stage where they feel like they're too big, as they say, too big to fail, And so sometimes we got to get that idea, we got to get that concept out of our minds that we're not teachable, And you find many of the great ulama, you find the, Imam Malik, he used to sit on in the was it Imam Malik or Imam Abu Hanifa? They used to dialogue with each other. I think it was Imam Abu Hanifa. He sat did he sit in the classes of Imam Malik, or the vice versa? One of those. I can't remember. It was a narration I remember reading. And since I'm teachable, I remain teachable. If I'm wrong, you correct me, man. But I think it was Imam Abu Hanifa. No. I can't remember. Well, scratch that. We'll research it. But I mean, you have examples of great scholars teaching, or learning from their students. Being humble enough to listen. Here we have the Prophet himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was the best and the ultimate teacher. Never be a better teacher than him. And he would summon his companions to recite the Quran. Because he wanted to hear from them. He was the one that received the revelation, but he wanted to hear them recite it. And so that was something that, he identified with them, and it made that connection. Because sometimes when we remain humble, we're able to make that connection, and so we really have to learn how to do that. And, somebody told us that, to be without knowledge and on some levels is like, it's ignorant. It's not really ignorant. What it does is promote you to want to learn more. That you should know that you don't know. You should have certainty that you don't know. You know what I'm saying? As much as you know, or as much as you think you know, according to what you've learned. And a lot of stuff we miss. And I was somewhere. I can't remember. Yeah, I went to one of the places where I visit, a masjid, a local area that I usually go to. I do Jummah sometimes. And one of the things that impresses me is that in the school, they have like children there. I think they go up to like maybe 8th grade, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And there's always this older brother in the class. There's always this older brother in the class, And, he's humble enough to be sitting in the class with, some of these kids that could, potentially be his grandchildren. And he don't have any, he don't have any qualms about it. He don't have no ego about it. He's just there to learn. So that's how we have to develop ourselves and be honest with ourselves that even with all of this advent of knowledge and, this whole Quran and Sunnah and, knowledge, scholars, lectures, books, and all this kind of stuff, we have missed a lot, and we have to be humble enough to know we got to go back and review and revise and realize what we've missed and try to relearn it again, and don't think that it's too late, don't think that, it's above us to go back to the beginning or to the basics, and once we learn this, this will help you to grow and to elevate, and sometimes be silent and listen, listen deeply, without the need to respond or, and one things that really, I don't want to say irks me, but it's like with people who will act like they're learning stuff and then they want to be the one that's teaching stuff. But when it's time to them to kind of like reiterate the stuff that they learn, they become mute. You know what I mean? Like, okay, if you know the stuff, especially with brothers, man, it's like, brothers don't want to sit in your class. They don't want to learn nothing. And then next thing you get a phone call. Yeah, the brother was teaching me Deen. He was, huh? Yeah. He was teaching.
Just laughing. I'm sorry because
No, but
I identify with you 100%.
I know you do, man. It's crazy, man. Like, wait a minute. You mean this brother? Man, this brother, I couldn't even get him to recite Al-Fatiha. You know what I mean? And now he's teaching you all of this. He's connecting with the ulama. I'm connecting with the ulama. SubhanAllah, but that's and this is something that's a stickler with us as people, man. We just got to really admit, that we just don't be knowing, and we got to be humble enough to learn, inshallah. Go ahead, Imam.
Okay, so it was something I was reading was this morning, like blew me away. I was on I got a break from the Tornado Brothers. I was up early in the morning researching, doing some stuff. So I read a statement of Ibn Uthaymeen, the big Saudi scholar. He was commentating on a book in Hanbali fiqh called Zad al-Mustaqni', right? Which is a summary of another book called Al-Muqni', right? Written by Ibn Qudama, Al-Muwaffaq Ibn Qudama. And in his explanation of this book, he was explaining a statement of the author of the book Az-Zad. So the author said, هذا مختصر في الفقه من مقنع الإمام الموفق أبي محمد على قول واحد وهو راجح. So he said that this book is a summary taken from the book Al-Muqni of Al-Imam Al-Muwaffaq Abi Muhammad, who's Ibn Qudama, one of the major Hanbali scholars from the early 7th century. He lived between the 6th and 7th century. So he called the author of the summary, called him Al-Imam Al-Muwaffaq. Now, we be calling ourselves Imam. Check this out. It it hit me because, we had this title, Imam, in our little context, right? It made me think about something. So he said, Qawluhu Al-Imam. His saying Al-Imam about Ibn Qudama. He said, this is being too easy in some things. Having a tasahul, being extremely lenient with your terminology. He said, لأن الموفق ليس كالإمام أحمد أو الشافعي أو مالك أو أبي حنيفة لكنه إمام مقيد. He said, the reason why this is being too lenient is because Al-Muwaffaq, which is Ibn Qudama, this big scholar, he said he's not like Imam Ahmed or Imam Shafi or Imam Malik or Abu Hanifa. Rather, he is a qualified or a imam with some restrictions, not a real imam. And I thought about this, and I said to myself, if he's talking about Ibn Qudama like that, who was a hafiz of Hadith, who wrote series of books in the Hanbali madhab, to this day are the major references in the school, but he's not an imam. What the heck does it say about the rest of us? Right? I'm just thinking about the statement. And he's comparing them, saying, you're not the real imam, compared to Imam Ahmed or Shafi or Malik or Abu Hanifa. And we live in a time where you hear this statement or the state of people talking about hum rijal wa nahnu rijal. They are men and we men. Abu Hanifa, Malik, I got an opinion, they got an opinion. I was thinking about this statement. And I said to myself, what does that mean when we think about our status, our positioning in knowledge? I want to put that in some context. Al-Muwaffaq Ibn Qudama, rahimahullah, he wrote major books in the Hanbali madhab that have either been summarized, commentated upon, marginal notes written upon, referred to, explained over and over by hundreds of top-level scholars in every generation from his time. So from the 7th century, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th century, all around the world, wherever there were scholars, his books are referred to. In Islamic jurisprudence, they are references by everybody, not just Hanbalis. Like maybe the Hanbalis would study his book, Umdatul Fiqh, or his book, Al-Muqni, or his book, Al-Kafi, or his book, Al-Mughni. And they are in levels. One book at one level, just giving the rulings, and one saying, another book giving multiple sayings, another book giving multiple sayings with evidences, another book, comparative fiqh of all madhabs. And all of those books are referred to. And he talked about him like, you're not like those great imams, Ahmed or Shafi'i or Malik or Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah. In knowledge. I want you just to think about the statement, whether you like it or not, whether you like Ibn Uthaymeen or not. That's some powerful stuff to think about, right? And the book that I was referring to is 15 volumes from him, Ibn Uthaymeen. It's 15 volumes. Each volume, roughly around 500 pages. So he wrote or taught 7,500 pages of information. And he considered that like, this is not no big feat. This is not really a big, we're little guys compared to them. And then look at us today. How many of us have wrote 3 volumes of 500 pages in Islamic law? Three volumes. How many wrote 1,000 volumes? 1,000 pages. And anyone who's a writer knows that to write 1,000-page book is a lot of work and research. You're talking about someone who wrote 1 volume, 8 volumes, 10 volumes, 20 volumes, a collection of work that's 30, 40, sometimes 50 volumes. And that's just in one field. And then all of the volumes that were written upon those volumes by other scholars. Context. And with all that work, he says he shouldn't be called an imam. If we just mean the word imam, like some people support him and like his statements and positions, that's one thing. But if we mean like a real imam, that's some deep stuff. Like we're a real imam. Now, compare that, right, to what we see today. It's something to really, really ponder upon. And we're talking about levels. And I've been thinking about that all day. I found the statement kind of offensive, tell the truth, but nevertheless, the point, I look beyond the offensiveness of the statement in my mind to like, who you talking about him like that? But forget that point. But the fact that that's something to think about. That so if you consider them that not like this level, how deep were those people and how small are we in terms of our understanding and knowledge of the deen? Like when you really think about it, when you put that such a statement in context of even if you don't like somebody or you disagree with them, you can't deny their effort and their works, right? So even when I'm thinking about Ibn Uthaymeen saying something, who wrote extensively and taught extensively, even though we don't agree with him in creed, he did a lot of writing, a lot of work, and a lot of teaching. And he didn't consider someone who did far more than him in terms of serving the madhab as to be an imam. That's deep. That, to me, that was like profound. Something to think about it as knowledge, then use your intellect and put yourself in your place, right? I think that was like so powerful to me. Because today, we would have us who haven't done a fraction of the work of the likes of these type of authors and teachers and writers, and we act as like, I'm like that. I'm it. No, you're not it. You it, but not the it you think. So I want us just to put some context to things and just to think about it. Because actually, we have to get there as a people. And if we're deluded, we won't never get there. Because we have to get there. Like, we need real imams with real knowledge among us that are knowledgeable, not just in our context, but on the global historical context. There's truly imams, scholars, that no matter where they go in the world, they're recognized as an authority from us. We need that. Not just one or two or three. It needs to be regular, like common practice. So that's stages, right? There's stages. So if I think about what we have to do collectively, and we won't live to see it, but we can know how we can facilitate it, right? We can know that part. And I'm gonna tell you something, and I'm trying to be at the forefront of that. We have to stop being afraid of our own shadow when it comes to things. Like, we have to get the bravery and the courage to say, I have to prepare a future for my children that allows them to be excellent, especially in the deen, at the forefront, to be leaders. So that was just the thought I had. I have more about the stages of knowledge. Let me give one before I pass the mic, and I'll come back. I told you this before, but maybe everyone didn't hear it. We have to be true seekers of knowledge, true seekers, intelligent seekers. And in order to do that, we're talking about remain teachable, right? And this is going to tell you if you're teachable. The true seeker of knowledge is not considered a true seeker until he learns, acquires knowledge from those who know less than him, those who know equal to him, and those who know more than him. The true seeker is not considered a true seeker of knowledge till he learns knowledge from those who are less than him in knowledge, those who are equal to him in knowledge, and those who are greater than him in knowledge. If you're not like that, you're not teachable. So if only you can learn from the scholars, and let's put scholar in context, right? The imams, let's put imams in context. If that's the only one you want to learn from, you're not a true seeker. You're a fraudulent claimer, right? You need to be able to learn and sit at the feet of someone who knows less than you as you do is someone who knows way more than you. Likewise, someone who's equal to you. So if we had that concept, there will be no, man, Joker can't tell me nothing, Negro. No, he wouldn't have that feeling. A true seeker will never feel that way. A true seeker is like, you have something I don't have, even if it's one thing, let me learn it. That was Jabir ibn Abdullah, who traveled from Arabia all the way to Sham for one hadith. One hadith that he didn't know from a companion who he had more hadith than that companion. He traveled for one hadith. When he got to Syria, that's like a month's journey. He came to that Sahabi's house. He said, I heard you have a hadith of the Prophet that I didn't hear. I came to get it. He said, that's it? He said, that's all I came for. He heard the hadith and went back. 2 months journey for one hadith. That's a sincere seeker. That's a sincere seeker. And that's how we need to be as a community. And in this way, we would encourage each of us to do their part. I have an elder. That's how I was going to stop. I got a lot of stuff to talk about today, right? But go ahead. I'm going to stop there. And I want to share a story.
Okay, alhamdulillah. You know, it's interesting that you mentioned, Ibn Uthaymeen, because this is one of the issues when we're talking.
And I'm not a Wahhabi. That just shows you I'm not so biased as people think. I read everything. I'm a seeker of knowledge, inshallah. Yeah. I try. So I find benefits in different places from different people. I may not agree with everything someone says, but that doesn't mean they didn't say anything that's beneficial. Even if it's wrong, sometimes it's a benefit to know what's wrong.
Yeah, it's interesting because I remember when I used to be with the Wahhabis, and they used to, that they were, select from the athar, select from the narrations, and used to hear, a lot of stuff like that around, that a lot of scholars are criticizing, giants in the deen, and they themselves don't even meet the requirements to be able to critique them, and some of the story you heard that such and such is weak in this, and this one was that one, and he didn't know proper Akida and all of this kind of stuff that you hear these people saying, and it is a direct result of what we're talking about tonight. Is people bypassing stages. People bypassing stages and developments and ranks and degrees of how knowledge is learned. And so when people who have bypassed or continue to bypass and have even promoted this idea like, we don't need madhabs, should I follow a madhab, and, why can't I just take from Quran and Sunnah directly as if it's just that easy, And we see that this certain type of scholarship where it's all this harshness and critiquing people whom they couldn't even really, they weren't even qualified to tie their shoes. But you have them saying things about, scholars in Aqidah and the scholars of Tasawwuf and scholars of fiqh, just kind of like, dismissing them as if their works weren't important. And so that's why this topic that we're talking about and connected with all the other topics is making sure that we are concentrating on developing, solid knowledge amongst our people so that we can keep our developing the stages going, and we need people to be able to step up and be qualified to step up and not feel like that they're inferior, and not feel like that they're less than anyone else because, they didn't study overseas, or they didn't study in a certain country, or they didn't study in a certain university, and that's very important. Yeah. Yeah. See, that kind of thing. Yeah. As the brother saying on there, you hear all this stuff, Kaburis and, deniers of Allah's attributes and all of these crazy names that come up when it was just propaganda, to really hide their deficiency and the stages that they miss in learning knowledge, where, this whole concept that you could just take from the narrations and whatever the Prophet ﷺ said and it's authentic, you use that over 1,000-year tradition, and how harmful that has been. And even now, some of us, we may come across these people and, you hear something here and then someone, yeah, you got to follow Hadith if it's Sahih, the Imam said that the Hadith is Sahih, then that's my madhab, And so now you got people going in to translated Sahih Bukhari, and then telling you, oh, this is Sahih, so I can just move out on this Hadith, and stuff like that. And, there's a lot of mess that we have to clean up. So, and going back to this tradition of going stages by stages is very important. And I think we should take the time to commend our Imam Amin, right? And how he is doing this work, how he's been diligent in doing this work every day, and making sure that all of us are learning in stages and going through these books. And because, I remember, when I was with the Wahhabis, it was always these selections or collections of stuff taken from this scholar and this scholar and this stuff, but never the whole book, except for the few that they tell you, a few of those books that they teach, those simple books, but like different other books, they never take you from cover to cover reading the books. They select what they want you to know, and they bypass a whole bunch of stuff because they themselves have been deprived of developing the stages. So that's something to pay attention to. So we really appreciate Imam Amin. And speaking of Imams, when I heard him mention the statement by Ibn Uthaymeen and how he talked about Ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi, and so make no mistake, at least for me, the work that I do, they gave it the title of Imam. I'm just a servant trying to do my part, and trying to make things right, all the wrongs that I did, and it just turns out to be Imam, So, but in reality, I'm just a leader, trying to serve my people, trying to take care of people I'm responsible for, and to try to do my part, inshallah. So nobody be fooled, because people be like, oh, that's my Imam, and that's the Imam, until it's something that, disturbs them, and like, oh, he ain't nobody. He never went overseas to study. Yeah. So listen, I'll tell you right now, I'm not fooled by it in the least. I'm not fooled by it in the least. That's okay. So it's crazy. But, this whole thing of missing stages and developments and growing, a lot of people are, we really got to turn this around. We got to make sure we got to sacrifice, our generations are coming up, and make sure that we are giving them this traditional knowledge so they can be the leaders of tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala. All right, so I give it back to you. Before I give it back to Imam Amin, if you've come in and you haven't donated, inshallah, we try to see where we at. But try to make sure you try to meet the minimum contribution of $10, or think about in this holy month of blessed month of Rajab, they give for yourself and someone else and maybe two other people. Back in the day, that used to be a thing when we used to cover the charges. When people come into the spot, I got it. Come on. We should still have that mentality in chasing these hasanat. Yeah, I got a couple, y'all. Come on in. I pay the $10. I pay $100. 10 of y'all can come in for free. And that's how we grow. That is darajat too. That is stages. So keep that in mind, inshallah ta'ala.
You remember those days?
I remember those days.
Those days?
Showing off.
Yo, here you go.
Yeah.
Grand. What's that for? So I don't want to embarrass you. Don't ask for no money when we out. You just, that's for you. It's
Right.
your cheese. You do your thing,
Right.
We don't do that. You got to have your own.
Yeah.
Joker just want to hang out because he ain't going to spend the money. He going to take that back because he got a regular job. Oh, you know, baby.
No.
May Allah help us.
Amin.
Subhanallah. I want to piggyback off. I had a whole lot of stuff. We don't have time that I wanted to talk about.
In stages, in stages.
Yeah. So I'm going to come back to this Hadith intensive. I'll leave it up to remind you. We're starting. We've been authorized to do it a while, but we never did it. Maybe just being lazy and lacking the confidence. Always looking for someone to do what you can do for you. Do for you what you should be doing for yourself. But we started in Pittsburgh, so inshallah, we're going to continue it, which will be bi-monthly gatherings where we do the various books of Hadith, riwayatan wa dirayatan, by narration and by explanation in details. So we're going to start the weekend of February 3rd and 4th, which is all day Saturday and all day Sunday, from 10 a.m. to 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. We're going to do the complete narration, inshallah, of the 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi. We're going to do it with a different chain of narration than we did in Pittsburgh and a completely different explanation. And one of our sheikhs, an American sheikh, who has almost 50 years or more in Islamic teaching, will be with us, explaining and sharing and giving us his experience. He was overseas when overseas wasn't fashionable. He was in Egypt and Arabia before most of, if not all of, the popular names you know today. He was doing that in the 60s and 70s. So he's going to be with us. And we're going to have some very important discussions during this. It's going to be a treat, inshallah ta'ala. But I want to come back to that point. I'll leave that up so people would be aware. I keep forgetting to put the flyer up. But inshallah, I'll remember tomorrow to do it. Please put the flyer in the StreamYard so I can share the flyer. I keep forgetting. So at least tomorrow we can do it to give people a chance to prepare for that. So knowledge. Let's just talk about the stages of knowledge quickly. They're easy. Beginner stage, intermediate stage, advanced stage, scholarly stage. There's the beginner stage where you don't know the rules. You're learning. Trust me from experience. The overwhelming majority of us are beginners. And I would give you to highlight, if in any Islamic science you haven't studied at least 3 different books and read those books and covered those books, each of them at least 3 times, you are a beginner in that field, let alone others. I'll repeat. If you haven't studied in any given Islamic science, in that particular science, 3 books, and each of them at least 3 times, you still a beginner. So how many beginners we got? Say I. Just put I. I'll put I for me. I. Right? How many I's we got that realize I'm still a beginner? I just gave you. In any science, if you haven't studied at least 3 different books, in each of those books, at least 3 times, you're still a beginner. So I gave you an I. I'm among them. So we all beginners. So no ego. We are beginners. We're all beginners. So there's no big I's and no little U's. All beginners. All little B's. Right? Pause. Right? All beginners. Little beginners. That didn't fly, right? Pause. So we all beginners. And I think we need to admit that. Admitting you have a problem is the first step to the solution. Like, we don't realize we beginners. We beginners. So with that, we at the beginning stage. At the intermediate stage, once you get past that beginning stage, we got to go to the intermediate stage. Then we got to go to the advanced stage. Then we got to go to the scholar stage. And all the scholars who were authors of books, especially like in any science, they wrote books like that. So like I was talking about Ibn Qudama, he wrote a book for intermediate, for beginners. He wrote a book for intermediate. He wrote a book advanced, and he wrote a book for scholars. Like he realized that people needed stages. Imam Faheem, look at this. He said, I sent Zelle and forgot to put Roundtable. Thank you. I have a lot of responsibilities. The Roundtable is well taken care of. I appreciate your donation. I'm joking. We got you covered. Okay, we'll transfer it, inshallah. So then he wrote for those. Imam Nawawi wrote the same thing, right? For our Islamic studies, make sure all of us go through these stages, beginner, intermediate, and make that a habit among everyone. One of the biggest things that has caused us as a community to be unlearned of the deen is the annihilation of this system of learning. Where a guy is a beginner, acting like he's advanced, acting like forget advanced, acting like he's intermediate. You are a beginner. So the guy's talking about Hadith, as Imam Faheem was mentioning. Most people don't know anything about Hadith at all. Most of the people talking about, I follow the authentic narrations. You don't even know what a narration is. What are you talking about? No, and I'm not trying to be sarcastic. Truly, you don't even know what a narration is. And I can prove it. I have a test. Anyone want to take my test who think they are narrators of Hadith? And they know what a narration is? Anyone want to take my test? Who's up for it? Anyone? Any takers?
Nobody.
I guarantee you, I will prove that we don't know in 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes, 1 minute, that we don't know anything about narration Hadith. I'll prove it in 1 minute.
Nobody's up for it.
I'm
talking about nobody on YouTube. The guy.
All right. But these be the ones talking. That's why I'm saying that. In 1 minute, I'll show you don't know nothing about Hadith. 1 minute. That's all it would take. Even if you think, see, I can't avoid being bad. I be trying hard. Like, you remember our homie? He said, yeah, they're trying so hard not to say Wahhabi. It's killing them. Right? You know, come on, we be joking, man. Seriously. You don't know nothing about Hadith. I know you don't. You know you don't. But it's easy. I'll tell you a story. I was in the masjid. I told y'all the story before. I was in the masjid. And we studied some hadith as beginners. We're beginners. And our beginning stages of hadith study, I did do what I'm talking about to you in hadith with living teachers, right? But I'm still a beginner. No doubt about it. I'm not even intermediate, beginner, right? So this guy, they come into the masjid. They said about this guy, they brought him in the masjid. I think it was during Ramadan too. They said he's Shaykh al-Hadith. I said, Shaykh al-Hadith? Ajib, wow. In other words, what they were really saying, sit down, Amin, boy, he's going to take over because he's Shaykh al-Hadith and you, not even a beginner. I know I'm not a beginner, but he definitely ain't Shaykh al-Hadith. So he comes and they showing him to me, you know, he's talking. And they was like really believing it. And I looked at this guy. I said, you Shaykh al-Hadith? And he said, yeah. I was like, dang, boy, you really bold, right? He said, I said, okay. I said, mashallah, I love hadith and we study hadith here. We love hadith. We have teachers. And I said, can you give me the chain from Bukhari to the Prophet ﷺ in the first hadith of al-Bukhari? His eyes, man, got so big. He didn't expect that question coming. I said, can you give me the chain of narration from Bukhari, Imam al-Bukhari, rahimahullah, to the Prophet ﷺ in the first hadith in al-Bukhari, in Sahih al-Bukhari, the first hadith? He was stumped. He didn't expect that at all, especially coming from a black guy in the inner city. He didn't expect it at all. I said, you Shaykh al-Hadith, this is easy stuff. He was like, oh, I don't remember. I said, you don't remember? That's the most authentic book after the Quran. And you Shaykh al-Hadith. And you don't know the first hadith? Its chain of narration? So let alone we're going to talk about it. You don't even know the chain? And you talking about you Shaykh al-Hadith? Do you know that's a crime in hadith knowledge? In hadith knowledge, that's a crime. And my point was not to put him down. Stop making some claims. You are a beginner like all of us. Then I didn't say the second chain or the third chain or the fourth chain or the fifth chain or the sixth chain. I said just the first one. And the point that I was showing those youth is that, oh, you assume because we black, you could just pour anything over our eyes? No. I said, so let's study together as beginners, all of us. That would help us. So no one's Shaykh al-Hadith. Let's go learn from those real people who deserve the title of Shaykh al-Hadith. Let's go learn from them. And then let's share, so one day we all can become some level of proficiency in narrating the hadith, right? That's one. We're not even talking about Shaykh al-Hadith until you got, at minimum, the 6 books. At minimum. So we're talking about the books of Imam al-Bukhari, Imam Muslim, Imam Abu Dawood, Imam At-Tirmidhi, Imam Ibn Majah, and Imam An-Nasai at minimum. Then we should add to that the Muwatta of Imam Malik and the different narrations of that. That's just for starters, right? And in our time, it's rare to find someone like that. In the times of the scholars who they be challenging, that was normal. That was normal for them. That was normal. That's just the norm. That's like drinking coffee for them. Today, that is extremely rare, almost unheard of, especially when you check them. Very rare, especially when you check them. Be full of mistakes. So that idea of, these false claims, that doesn't mean, but we beginners. That's fine. Be a beginner. And then maybe one day, because we're not pretending, one day we will reach there. We'll make an environment that's conducive for us to reach there, because we all agree we're beginners. We don't have to be shown, hey, digga my man. Hold up. Can everyone copy this, please? I want to make somebody happy. I don't want their work to be in vain. Could everybody copy that, please? Could everybody copy it and put that up, please? People work hard to give us ascriptions and names and tags. You don't want that work to go to waste. Please copy that and share. The man worked hard for us to get that title, and we should not let him down. I don't have no bang, 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 woo, woo. I don't have all them bells and whistles. I'm too stupid for that. But I will give you your flowers. You renamed the Roundtable, Black Imams Roundtable Outcon, and we accept. We're not offended. We take this ascription with honor and dignity, and we appreciate it. We are not among your haters. We are lovers. And all Sufis are lovers, right? Nah, we love you, brother. Hey, you got to invite me and Imam Faheem on your show. I know he don't want to come, but I promise we'll behave ourselves. We're going to hit you up a little bit, but we got to come to your show, because you really be giving us some shout out, and we appreciate it. At least I do. I can't speak for everybody, even though I do all the time, because I ain't no prop. All right, man, don't get him. Right. But you show us love, we got to return the favor, The kindness deserves kindness. MashaAllah. I'm talking to somebody. Y'all just can't see him. He's on YouTube. And your views are hurting, so we need to help you, right? Your views, man. I was looking at your views. I was like, come on, man. People, this man is pouring his heart out here. So I'm coming to help out. Outcon to the rescue, right? We're going to boost your views up a little bit. Because those Wahhabis are not helping at all. All right, I'm just clowning. I got a terrible sense of humor. I wanted to be a comedian. I just failed. I'm no Cat Williams at all. Because if I'd have been a comedian, I would have given the 500 every week, and I would have donated to his Patreon and everything. Okay, all right. But my point is, so the Hadith thing, all right, jokes aside, the Hadith thing, I want us to learn Hadith, honestly. It's a beautiful, important science that were originally the Sunni scholars are the real scholars of Hadith. The Sufis were real scholars of Hadith. When you study Hadith, if you know it, they were the leaders in narrating Hadith. Oh, yes. And the great scholars of Hadith, the biggest names in Hadith, were Ash'aris. Don't forget that part. It's true. We can prove it. We can show. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Stop. They weren't Ash'aris. They just leaned to Ash'ariyah. They leaned to Ash'ariyah. They were infected by Ash'ariyah. They weren't Ash'aris. They just had the same belief as the Ash'aris. They had some deviants, Ibn Hajar Asqalani, he was a little deviant. Imam an-Nawawi is a little deviant. As-Suyuti was a deviant. Ibn Salah was a deviant. Hafiz al-Iraqi was a deviant. They didn't understand Aqidah, all of those great scholars were, they was deviants. But Imam al-Bukhari, all of them, they leaned to Ta'wil a little bit. Right. So since they was leaning, everybody leaning, they weren't Ash'ari, just leaning to Ash'ari, leaning to Sufism. I'm going to lean with them. We hip-hop, lean back. Lean
with it, rock with it.
So we lean into a little Ash'ari and lean into a little Sufism. But when we study Hadith, honestly, right, you're going to see how much we don't know, if we be honest. And then we're going to learn, and we can stop the bamboozling and being hoodwinked and led astray and run amok. We can actually open the books and say lies detected. Because the books don't lie, except the ones they publish. It got a lot of lies in them. But the real books, they don't lie. They don't lie. The footnotes lie a lot. The omissions lie a lot. Right? You ain't know I was going to go in today, right? I wasn't until I saw you. I got to have fun. I want to show y'all something. Hold on.
Yeah, while we wait for Imam Amin come back, because I'm just a prop here, so I guess I should say something. But if there's any questions about tonight's topic, inshallah, because we're coming up on 2 hours. You want to post the questions, inshallah ta'ala. But just to reiterate about this beginner thing, I find in my experience that a lot of people they don't want to admit that even after 15, 20, 30 years, that they're really a beginner, and who would want to admit that, like you've been Muslim this long, and people say, I've been Muslim a long time. And, that even makes it worse because, yeah, you've been Muslim a long time and you're a beginner. Just admit it. You're only qualified to really, say certain things. And it's okay. And it's okay. Yeah, go ahead, Imam.
I got a gift I'm gonna share with y'all in the coming weeks, right? This book, it is a book that talks about uncovering the hidden matters about the Wahhabis playing with the books of the scholars.
Ooh.
This whole book, it is like 400 pages. It just points out how the Wahhabiyya changed the words in the books of scholars. From manuscripts to published books, the whole book is just about them playing with the words in the books of the scholars, altering their phrases, changing their phrases, and documenting the books. And altering the books of the scholars and republishing it under their publishing companies. And I'm going to go through it and just show you, and actually show you the books that they did it in, their editions. I'm going to show you the actual book and show you where they started playing with the words. They're famous for that. And that's why we say use your intellect, because sometimes you don't realize كشف الخفاء عن أبث الوهابية بكتب العلماء. There it goes right there. You see it, Sayyidi? Darul Nur Mubin. He has several books of this kind. But I'm going to share some of them with you. One time I was reading, show you one of them. Was written by Muhammad ibn Alan al-Bakri. He wrote a commentary on the Adhkar bi Kutub al-Ulama. After that, Jarad. Bi Kutub al-Ulama. So you have that after Wahhabi, bi Kutub al-Ulama. But so he was making a dua of the Prophet ﷺ, and they took, you found the PDF, there you go. Wafikum. Share it, you'll see it's a lot of beneficial stuff there. And they're taking words, and they were so eager to change the words that they wouldn't describe Allah with a face, and the author used the word wajh and wasn't even talking about a face. Wasn't even the attribute he was talking about. That's how eager they were to change his books. I'll show it to you one day. I'm gonna bring all this stuff so you can see, because a lot of times it's just show and tell. Like here, look, here, look, here, look, here, look, here, look. And we're beginners. If we're beginners and we're beginning to see the fallacies, what do you think our scholars were like? We're beginners, and we can see through that stuff. What about the intermediate level, the advanced level, and the scholarly level? Right? Our problem, we solving it. That old saying, if you want to hide something from black people, put it in a book. We're going to change that. I was talking to somebody today. I was like, man, stop telling me what you got off the internet. What book you read? Show me that in the book. Show me in a book. The books of this ulama, show me that where the scholar said that. Go look. We have to research. I remember Sheikh Samir told me this years ago. We were looking for something because we studied Hadith with Sheikh Samir. Many of the books of Hadith, sciences of Hadith, a lot of stuff. So he would narrate something, and they have Arabic like a search engine software. It's called a Shamila, right? Which are a bunch of books. And you could just put in whatever you're looking for, and boom, it'll show you, like the search engine. So one time we were doing that, Sheikh was like, don't do that again. I was like, why? It's easy, fast. He said, go read the book. He said, go get the original book. I didn't ask you to go do Shamila. I could do that myself. You go get the original book and go find the statement. So hear and obey, go find it. He said, You're depriving yourself when you do that. When you read the original book, not only you're going to find what you were looking for, you're going to run across many benefits in the process of searching for what you're looking for. There are going to be many fawaid, many benefits that you can never get if you just go search engine and find exactly what you're looking for. Scholars research, learned students of knowledge research, lovers research. You need to read. And if you keep reading, you're going to discover a lot of stuff. So when you read, you start to see this is cat. Guy tell me, ta'wil, figurative interpretation, wasn't done by the Salaf. Huh? Say it again. The scholars didn't do ta'wil. That's ta'til. That's negating. Say that again. And when you read enough, you see countless examples of the Salaf making ta'wil in their books. What are you talking about? Heck, I was listening to Fawzan make ta'wil the other day. I thought you don't do ta'wil. What the heck is that? I said, that's ta'wil if I never heard it. It's literal to prove your point and figurative when it goes against your point. And the scholars of Hadith explain that totally different from what you just said. The true scholars who were masters. How did we get off on this? We're talking about Hadith. Especially in the books of Hadith. You start reading their favorite subject, as they claim, al-jarh wa ta'dil, and you start reading about the narrators and their lives and their biographies, nothing but Sufism. What are you talking about? Ash'ira, all that's right there. Read the books. You people of Hadith, this stuff is easy. They mention the words in the narrators, a Sufi. The title didn't say a Salafi, a Sufi. You don't find in the narrators many people called a Salafi. Except you started putting stuff in the books. But you a lot of narrators, a Sufi. A Zahid, that was a term they used for the Sufis. Full in the books. They don't tell you that part. They don't tell you that. When you read all those narrators and all those books, they were Ash'ira. They ain't tell you that either. But read their books, you'll see it. This is stuff, that's what I'm just saying, just the learning part. It ain't an ego competition, it's just facts. You can't deny it. All you can do is hide it and fabricate it to someone who don't know. But someone who know, you can't tell them that. I challenge you something. Y'all ready? Features, where you at? Come out again. Don't run. Come back. I want to share something with you. My man. My man's in them. Right? I want you to do me a favor. Get all of your authority buddies, Salafi buddies, Salafis, Albani buddies, put them all together, and I want you to show me one chain of narration from our time to Imam al-Bukhari that doesn't contain a Sufi. Several Sufis. Majority Sufis. Give me one chain. That's the challenge. You ready? Bukhari. I ain't talking about no one else. We can go other books, but just Sahih al-Bukhari. Here's the challenge. Give me one chain of narration, just one. I didn't say 2 or 3 or 4. One, the chain of narration from today, any of your teachers, don't care who they are, to Imam al-Bukhari Sahih, that doesn't contain a bunch of Sufis. One chain of narration. One, just one. I await any of them to do it. Any one of them. And that shouldn't be hard to do, because I know that's not the case, because we can show the opposite. Not one, multiple chains. Multiple chains. To the point that those chains reach the level of tawatur, that they are multiple continuous chains that it's impossible to doubt them. And all of them contain Sufis. And the major hufav of those chains who memorized over 100,000 hadith were Sufis and Asharis. No doubt about it, and we can prove it. Over and over and over and over again with the most authentic book after the Quran. Now do it the other way. That's just something to think about. And guess what? We don't need to go get, excuse me. I don't mean to be offensive. Since we on black time, bro, we don't need to go get no white boy to do that. We don't need no Arab boy. We don't need no Pakistani. Since we on black time and we want to talk about the black people, black man stand up. Let a black man do it. Let a black man do it. And if the black man can't do it, go get them other guys to help him. But let him be the presenter. That's a challenge. And just for joke's sake, we didn't accept no debate because you was talking and the other guy was talking. So you should be the one standing up for the discussion, right? I'm just having fun with my man. Right? But where we come from, we from the inner city. You can't start a fight and go get your big brother. It don't work that way. You can't start no fight and then say, hey, I'm going to get my brother. He's going to take it from here. No. No. That don't work that way. You started it, you got to finish it. Or you got to put up the white flag and surrender, right? And we won't do nothing. We'll accept the flag, but you got to put it up. We from the hood. You can't start a fight and then say, I'm going to go get my boys. No. Don't work that way, right? I'm messing with you. I love you. You know, I'm just having fun. I'm truthfully having fun.
I don't even know if he's still on, but that new Alcon video he make is gonna be lit.
Oh, he said I'm white. I'm sorry, I wasn't meaning nothing offensive. But this is, if you didn't notice, this is the Black Imams Roundtable. So we talk about the Black community because we're talking about specific issues. So we don't curtail it just because there may be others listening. You're all welcome, but just like, you know, when everyone is doing their stuff, they don't curtail it. It's an issue. They take care of their issues, but we all listen. So don't take it offensive, right? But we don't like to be a subjugated people. We like to be a people who have some honor and dignity. You respect that, right? We should. You're not in the wrong channel. You're just in a channel of proud, dignified African Americans who are not afraid to be Black. That's all. But you're always welcome. Don't take it other than that. It wasn't meant to offend you. And we don't have to curtail our honor and dignity as a people just to make someone feel secure. No. So don't take it that way. You follow my point, my brother? We still Muslim. We brothers. It's not meant to be offensive. But we're proud to be black men and women and Muslim black men and women. And we're dignified. We're honored by that favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We take honor in both. Because this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us. And Allah created us in the best of modes. And we're dignified and honored by that. Whereas many of our people were ashamed to stand up for how Allah created them. So you got my point? That's right. So we deserve that right like everyone else, right? Just because we were stripped of our homeland, that don't mean we stripped of our honor as a people. We still have that same honor. And as a Muslim, you should be honored that someone's honored how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made them. And they see greatness in that. And they're not intimidated by that. They're not feeling inferior or less than. They actually feel at a level that we are the best of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to offer, just like as you should feel that you are the best that Allah has offered, and we should bring the beauty out of all of us and not the ugliness. All right, that was my rant on that one. So you are welcome. You're here and hang out with the brothers. You probably hung out with the brothers anyway, fronting. That's why you're here in the beginning. Go ahead.
You just can't come up to the Fillmore. I know you don't know where it's at. It's where the brothers at. No, that was a joke. Yeah, I'm not a good comedian either, so I make jokes in my head that I think is funny, but for the, alhamdulillah.
You with me, Muhammad Abdurrahman? You with me, Ak? So don't feel you in the wrong place.
No.
Long as you say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah and you got ears and a heart, you at the right place.
Okay, that's good. Then you know that sugar don't go in grits. As long as you know that, we rock with you.
MashaAllah.
Alhamdulillah. So we had a couple questions. I don't know if you want to
entertain. Oh yeah, I'm over time, but go ahead. Let's take the questions. Where they at?
It was only literally like one, basically.
Oh, that was one. What does shehu mean? Shehu means sheikh in the African the like Nigerian terminology. When they said shehu, it means sheikh. That was their way of saying sheikh. So the shehu means the sheikh. Will there be future classes in mentor? Of course, I don't know when the future is for that because we beginners, and maybe we could do some beginning stuff in that, in logic. That's what that means. But for most of us, we ain't there yet. But maybe some introductory things, maybe that will work, inshallah. I thought the Ash'aris were grave worshippers. So do many people. They think Ash'aris are grave worshippers. Sufis, not really Ash'aris, Sufis. Right? Grave worshippers. I don't know. I've never seen a real Muslim worship a grave. If they would have saw some of the Sahaba, they would have really thought they was grave worshippers. If you think just grave worshippers, subhanallah, that's nonsense. No one worships no grave. Okay, y'all ready? According to the Ash'aris, according to the true Sufis, worshiping a grave is kufr. The one who worships a grave is out of the fold of Islam. I took that with an unbroken chain for many Sufis, many Ash'aris. I actually learned with living Sufis, living Ash'aris, they do not worship graves. Visiting a grave? Yes. Making dua at a grave? Yes. Asking Allah by the status of pious people who are in the graves? Yes. Worshipping a grave? Absolutely not. And for all of those things I mentioned, they have textual evidence and proofs and examples from the Salaf that all of that is valid. So, but worshiping a grave, that's kufr. So if you don't know what worship is, and you think visiting the grave is worshiping a grave, that's just your misunderstanding. That's not worshiping graves. That's definitely, and according to the Ash'aris and the Sufis, or the Maturidis, or any of the followers of Masjid, no one worships graves. That's kufr, to worship anything other than Allah. So maybe you should ask, what are they actually doing and why and what is the evidence? And then once you know that, even if at then you disagree, you won't accuse them of worshiping graves. Say they're doing an action that I don't agree with their proofs. But worshiping graves, that's not honesty. No one's worshiping no grave. Okay. Imam, are you familiar with Sheikh Rami? I know him very well. He knows me very well. He's been in my masjid, has taught in my masjid, talks to me occasionally all the time. I know him very well, meaning we know each other. We've been together. We've been in the same place. Yes, he knows me very well. He knows exactly who I am. And I know him.
Yeah, remember we had him at one of the summits?
Yeah, he was at the the African American Summit. Actually, in one of the teaching sessions years ago. Yeah, I know him very well. Many people in our masjid and from my background, they are his students. Okay. Sheikh, milkshake. Okay. No, he's the Sheikh, Imam of the Boombat, Sheikh Boombat.
Strawberry.
Didn't Ibn Uthaymeen tell us we ain't imams, let alone sheikhs? I have a question. We see many of our brothers who lay claim to the Shafi'iyah were upon their way. Were upon their way, and they cite the works of Muzani and Ibn Khuzaymah. How would you, as a Shafi'i, respond? I don't understand the question. I don't understand it. Can you rephrase the question, Gerard? I don't understand it. I don't want to read into it. I think I know what you're saying, but I'm not sure. So I'll let you say it so I understand your question. The way you worded your question, it's not coming out clear. I think you're saying that some people claim that the Shafi'iyah were on the way of Al-Wahhabiyah, and they cite the works of Imam al-Muzani and Ibn Khuzaymah to prove that. Is that what you're saying? That's what it sounds like you're trying to say, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. So if you can clarify it, I'll try to answer it. What are some examples regarding those Sahaba worshiping graves? They used to go to the Prophet ﷺ's grave. Even in the time of rain, one of the companions went to the grave of the Prophet ﷺ and asked the Prophet to seek rain for his nation because they're about to perish. And that companion went and told Umar that, Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab. And Umar established the rain player based on that dream that person had at the Prophet's grave. Had it been shirk, Umar would have wrung his neck. As we know, Umar does that. Umar was very severe about mistakes in the religion. He did the prayer from that companion's, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, that companion's dream of the Prophet at the grave of the Prophet. We could talk about it more. That's example, and there are many other examples. That's just one. Why do many Salafis say that Ash'ari only believe in 13 attributes of Allah? Because they don't know nothing about Ash'aris. And if an Ash'ari says that someone claims to the Ash'aris to believe Allah only has 13 attributes is kufr, is disbelief. Allah's attributes are innumerable. The meaning they mention 13 because they were mentioned so many times in the Quran and the Sunnah that they're obligatory to believe, where there are other attributes that a person may not be aware of. But those 13 that they mention are explicitly mentioned in the Quran and the Sunnah, and sometimes implicitly so much that it's impossible that you don't know they're the attributes of Allah. That's why they mention 13, not because there are only 13 attributes.
We're going to cover that in class too, sis.
That's right, sis. He said, he was my first sheikh. Muhammad Abdullah, you telling on yourself. You were in the university. So I know you know about black leadership if you was in the university. All right, did we find it?
Where's Brother Gerard? He left?
Yeah, he's right here. He was asking that question. Here's the catch. And this is a whole nother discussion, but I'll give you the answer. What they do, if you want to be fair, fairness is very important. To really understand this, you have to understand meanings and intent behind words, right? It's very important. We got to take a minute for this. I'll try to make it brief. So if you read a book in Arabic, and you know Arabic, so you know what I'm talking about. You can say something, and what may apparently rush to the person's mind is not what you intend, right? So it may seem like they're saying the same thing, but remember, those imams are not alive to say, hey, you misunderstood me. So they're transposing their convictions on those imams. But the test of understanding that is that all those imams, they had students. That's why chains of narration become important. And then when you understand what those students and succeeding generations, and they had teachers above them, and by that, narrators above them, their shuyukh, and the students beneath them, examining their creeds as well will tell you if you understood that stuff correctly. So that's very important. You can't go and then bring some narration that you dug up and reinterpret it. That doesn't work. So if you look at Imam al-Muzani, for instance, who was the main student of Shafi'i, Imam al-Shafi'i, in terms of summarizing his works and conveying it to succeeding generations of Shafi'iyya. Read all of those great scholars who explains the books like the Muqtasar of Imam al-Muzani and had their narrators. Were all of them having that belief? So you mean all of these tens of thousands of scholars contradicted Imam al-Muzani? They got everything right in fiqh, but they missed his aqidah? How likely is that? Thousands, from generation to generation to generation, just by mere narration in books, especially in the Shafi'i school. All of them, the vast majority of them, let's say that, the vast majority of them, the overwhelming vast majority were Ash'aris. They all misunderstood Imam al-Muzani's belief. Yet they conveyed his book and summarized his book and explained his book and checked his book and verified his books, but they missed his aqidah. How likely is that? I mean, that's something to think about. Because there's not like broken chains. And if that is the case, that he had their belief, the first one who would have mentioned that was Imam Abu Ja'far al-Tahawi, who wrote about belief, and he was the maternal nephew of Imam al-Muzani. And his creed doesn't reflect that without their interpretation. He would have known that. And his creed has been the creed of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah since the time he wrote it for 1,100 years. And no one conveyed that. So I would approach it in that way. That's how I would approach that. And then once you start getting all those things and researching, it don't add up. Because you know what that actually does? It accuses the nation of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam of betrayal. That the vast majority of Muslim scholars are liars and betrayers and corrupt in creed. And they actually believe that. But who would take that as a reality? It's something that can be checked easily. Because you're talking about Imam al-Muzani is famous for al-fiqh. So take the same way. Ibn Khuzaymah is famous for hadith. How many scholars of hadith who conveyed his book, his Sahih, and all of them contradicted him in creed? Or they didn't understand it the way others understood it. Because narrating narrations for them don't necessarily mean the conviction you're given. Because they narrators, and they narrated narrations from the Prophet ﷺ. That doesn't in turn that they were necessarily anthropomorphous or having the belief of the Wahhabiyah. And even if it was one of them, does that overwhelm the majority of hadith scholars? Especially the most famous and relied upon narrators. They didn't have that belief. That's a fact that can be checked. So these things, these are things that laymen can check. Beginners? What about scholars? These beginners can do that. Okay, we way over time. I hope you got my point. Okay, we way over time. We did a good job, Imam Faheem. We actually made it through without the genius. Maybe we should fire him. Right now, no, I'm joking. They got a bunch of questions. Y'all got to wait till next week.
Y'all at the end. Y'all see me yawning on this joint.
I tell you what. I would recommend, if you're able, to make it to Atlantic City on February the 3rd and the 4th. Or prepare yourself for the bi-monthly lessons in Hadith, because that's going to be the concentration. And we're saving a lot of the research material for those lessons on the weekend. Inshallah ta'ala, I feel safe to promise you that once you study with us and you sit down and be patient, you won't be having these kind of issues. Because to me, it is the knowledge of Hadith that gave me the confidence in Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. When I learned the science of Hadith, as I continue to learn it with my teachers, there's the flyer there. To my beginner level, it made me understand that, man, this religion ain't nothing to be played with. Our scholars did an amazing job at preserving Islam. Something that was never heard of in the history of mankind. The work ethic of our scholars and the effort they put in preserving. And it's just, most of us don't know. Not our fault. People never told us. But when you sit and you see the work that they put in, and you see, man, Islam is beautiful. Allah truly, truly preserved this religion by way of our great scholars. So, yeah. But this is my point. There are many people who explain these things better than us, way better than us. But we just don't have access to them. And that's why it's important that we learn so we be accessible to our people. Right? That's why it's so important that we learn. And that we be better at every generation till we actually have our own scholars that are proficient in these sciences. Right? Because we beginners, like we said, we beginners. And we don't deny that. So that's why it's easier to really have the discussion, because I know I'm a beginner. You're the one acting like you're a Hadith scholar. So let's see your scholarship. Because we know Hadith scholars and we know what they could do. So since you won, right?
Make another hole.
That's it, right? Oh, yeah, right? Since you like that, go ahead. And once you see that you're not like that, then come back down to the beginner circle and start with us. We fine with it. We always will accept. We need more beginners to encourage each other. So if you get into the level of intermediate or advanced, yo, man, pull us up. Don't keep us down. Pull us up with you. You know what I would like to see in closing? All these brothers who graduated from the University of Medina, if they free their minds with the education they had, we could do a lot together. But when you programmed, it's hard for you to relate and admit you might be mistaken in some stuff because you've been programmed. But you did get some benefit, a lot, and now you just got to add to it. And the biggest thing is freedom of thinking. You got to stop thinking under the parameters and limits of the Wahhabi movement, because Hadith sciences has nothing to do with the Wahhabi movement. Once you free your mind and be honest, then, man, they could be a great help. You know, you talking about some real Hadith disciples? Real, I'm talking about we could do a lot. But if the condition is I got to close my eyes and follow the people in authority who don't give a crap about us, then I guess we won't. No one's doing that. But trust me, if we can get past the slavery part, the mental slavery, Man, we be like that collectively as a people, right? But if our education has only taught us to be better slaves, then it doesn't work, right? If our education has only taught us to be better slaves, it don't work. We need education that frees you and uplifts you and builds. So, all right, we're gonna close out.
Yeah,
Imam, I'm already in trouble.
me too. Alhamdulillah wa shukrullah. We thank you all for joining us tonight. Alhamdulillah. We hope this is a beneficial talk. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept it from us. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت ونستغفرك ونتوب إليك. الفاتحة. Alhamdulillah.
Hey man, stop rubbing your hands or your face on this bitter.
Yeah. good, clean bitter.
Noob Teddy. All right, barakallahu fikum. Inshallah, hopefully we can see y'all in the morning. May Allah reward you all. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your continuous sticking with us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.